If you are watching this, then two things are probably true. One, you have watched 2001 A Space Odyssey, and you now are very upset and very confused because seriously, what the actual fudge nuggets is wrong with this film? Never before have I ever been so entranced by something. You know, you're watching it and you're just dazzled and bamboozled by how beautiful it is, but you're also confused because you actually, after watching the movie, have no idea what it is that you just watched. You just wasted 3 hours of your life, and you cannot remember a single moment of it. It left me mentally exhausted in near cardiac arrest. This film is confusing and scary, and if you have smooth brain like me, then you probably watched this movie and are now thinking to yourself, why did I watch this? Why? Why did anyone let me go do this? I need to go lay down. I feel very strongly about this movie. There's a lot of things that we could go into, but I'm not going to get into any of that because my professor, he's right. He sat over there. Hi, Professor Mitchell. He's a really nice chap, and he said that if I made this video too long, then he would be sad, and he doesn't want me to overwork myself, and I appreciate a man who, you know, cares about his students and doesn't want them to overwork themselves. So in respect to that, I'm just gonna keep it to trying to explain a 2001 Space Odyssey. I think a big reason why a lot of people get confused by this movie is because it's not structured like a normal movie. A normal movie has a beginning, a middle, and an end, and a lot of dialogue and exposition and action, and you can sort of understand what's going on. But this movie is a lot more like long stretches of absolute silence. Nothing happening. And then suddenly people are talking, and they're talking about nothing. If you're just sort of zoned out, you'll have no idea what's going on. It's very boring to watch a literal 20-minute stretch of nothing followed by 5 minutes of dialogue that seems to have nothing to do with the past 20 minutes of silence that we just watched. And that is why this movie can be very confusing. So, I'm just going to structure it this way. I'm going to try and explain the movie by giving you an overall synopsis of what the movie is and what it's all about. And then I'm just going to individually go through the movie, just sort of take my hand, let's go, this is A Space Odyssey explained. The overall synopsis of the movie is people have found a scary rectangle on the moon, and they don't know where it's from. And then suddenly the rectangle starts screaming at another rectangle that's on Jupiter, and it's like, okay, well, now we gotta go get that one. So they send some people in a ship to go get the other rectangle, and then along the way, bad things happen. And that's essentially the movie. Now, the movie doesn't seem to do a good job of explaining this because, like I said, it's either silence or it's just them not talking about what's happening. We begin the movie at the dawn of man. It's a great place to start a movie about space when there's literally no technology, not even the wheel. The monkeys are still monkeys. They're still monkeying it up. Take me with you. The monkeys we see a bunch of monkeys. We are supposed to accept that these are early humans. They're just a bunch of people in rubber gorilla suits, and you can see that they actually have baby chimpanzees. This movie is dated just by the fact that these are all real people in real costumes hanging out with real chimpanzee babies and real tapirs, and holy tiger just ate that guy. What the, oh my gosh, is he okay? Is he okay? Is he good? Do we know if he's okay? No? Okay, okay, I guess we don't know if he's okay. Do you think they told him? Do you think they told him what was going to happen, or did they just sort of say, okay, now, Roger, listen to me. We got a really good idea for a scene. What you're going to do is you're going to rub this Old Bay spice on you, and then you're going to put on this gorilla suit. And we want you to just face this way. Do not look behind you. If you look behind you, you're fired, okay? He's just like, I don't know about this, guys. This seems pretty scary. Shut up, Roger! We've already decided. Just the plight of this man. Do you think he sued them? Do you think he's still alive? If he is alive, find him for me because I want to talk to him. Anyways, the monkeys find this obelisk. They're just freaking out, and they don't know what it is. And I think we're supposed to infer from this scene that this black rectangle of doom has made the monkeys smarter. Because in the next scene, they learn to pick up bones and use them as weapons, and we see them conquering animals and getting better food and resources and stuff. And then bam, we're in the future. We're literally in the far off, distant future of 2001. And that is sort of where the movie begins, because, like I said earlier, one of the issues with this movie is that it has long stretches of silence and blah 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 blah, but also it has this issue of it starts with 2 prologues! Not 1, but 2! Half of the movie is a prologue. Congratulations, you're welcome. So the second prologue begins, and we see a man with a pen in space. He gets on to a space station, and he's like, "Hello, I'm Mr. Important Businessman, here to do moon business." And everyone says, "Okay, why don't you hang out here? Your flight to the moon will be here shortly." So he sits down, and a bunch of Russians come over to him and say, "Hey, Mr. Important Businessman, we hear that there's some weird shit going down on the moon. Do you care to elaborate on that?" And he says, no, I'm Mr. Important Businessman. I don't have to answer your questions." And that's about it. That's about all that they, sort of establish in that scene. The rest of the dialogue is completely useless. Never becomes relevant to the film again. Then Mr. Important Businessman is taken to the moon, where he's given a business meeting, and there's this asshole who's got like a camera, and I don't know what kind of suit he's wearing, but he's there, he's proud, he's taking photos, and then Mr. Important Businessman gets introduced. He comes up and he says, "Hello, as we all know, there's something wrong with the moon. We all know why we're here." And the rest of the audience is saying, "Why are we here? Do we know what's going on?" No, you're not allowed to know what's going on. He tells everybody that you're not allowed to talk what's going on with the moon, and someone says, "When can we see our families?" And then he throws a grape at his head and says, "F you, I'm in charge." Then he gets on a space shuttle, and we finally get to go see the scary thing on the moon that everyone's been talking about and trying to keep secret. To be honest, I've watched a lot of horror movies. Horror movies are some of my favorite movies of all time. I think that they have a lot to offer in terms of storytelling, and so I think it's fair when I say that this is one of the scariest, literal shit in your pants scenes I have ever seen in a movie. This was the kind of scene in a film where I was left wanting to eat my own shirt. I was so scared. And I'm just going to play it for you so that you can understand. It's awful. It is so gosh dang awful. I don't understand why it has to be so horrifying, but there it is. They get there, and as you can see, it is pretty awful. Ooh, spoopy monolith. What's happening? Why are they just taking photos with it? How can you be so calm? And then suddenly the monolith starts screaming or whatever. It's sending a signal to another one on Jupiter, but we don't get that explanation. We only get that explanation after the prologue is over, which happens right now. And suddenly we're a few years into the future again. And finally, the actual story starts to take place. All of this was just the setup. Everything we watched before, the last hour that we wasted, was just the setup for the actual story. About these two science dudes. One of them's named David. We don't know the other guy's name because he doesn't matter. And Hal. Hal is a robot that is controlling the ship that they're on. The reason they're on this ship is because they're trying to find whatever the monolith that's back on the moon is screaming at. And they know that it's around Jupiter. So they're traveling to Jupiter. And Hal starts to act a little weird. He's supposed to be the computer for the entire ship. He's supposed to be very smart. But he says there's something wrong with the ship, and when they go check it out, there's nothing actually wrong. This makes them reasonably very concerned because he's, hooked up to the life support and everything. So if he's having an issue with just whether or not their satellite dish works, then you can understand why they would be concerned. They try to sort of talk about this. Hal spies on them like a little sneaky giblet. I see you there, Hal. I see what you're doing. He spies on them and learns of their plans and decides that the best course of action is to murder everyone on the ship. When one of the dudes goes out, Mr. Not David, he gets out there and Hal just sort of bops him on the head with his own ship and sends him flying. David then decides to get into another pod, and I don't know why Hal didn't just self-destruct the pod or instruct that pod to crash into the ship. Like a million things he could have done, just sort of, and that's where that iconic line comes from. And Hal, instead of doing anything to actually disrupt him from getting inside the ship, says, no, I can't do that, and then lets him get back inside the ship. And then Hal goes full-blown genocidal maniac and starts murdering everyone else who's in the sleeping pods. David has to turn him off, which is another really horrifying scene, which they didn't need to go this hard, but they did. They really did. Hal starts singing, he starts doing all this creepy stuff, and I'm uncomfortable. It opens up a lot of ethical questions of, is this murder? Is this self-defense? Or is it just like turning off your computer? It's left pretty ambiguous. And now a big issue is that normally this is where the story would end. The astronaut has done it. He defeated the AI computer, and even though everyone else is dead, he may be able to pilot back home. But that is not the case. Instead, the movie takes a sharp right turn into insane existential alley. So the thing that they were trying to contact with the big scary rectangle has shown itself and has sort of abducted him. It yeets him into Willy Wonka's Wonderland, and just, oh my gosh, I can't even with the visuals. There's no epilepsy warning. There's nothing. It's just colors and rainbows and scariness and eyeballs. And how did they even do this? CGI doesn't exist yet. How did they do this? He sees himself as an old man and as a baby, and now he's a star child, and it's a bit too much. To be honest, I have no idea what's going on here. Basically, the aliens have abducted him, or we think they're aliens, or whatever. Scary rectangle, zoops him up, and shows him all this stuff, and now he sort of gains this weird understanding of the universe. But then that's where the movie ends. That's where it ends. It doesn't go into anything further. Why? Why did you do this to us? Oh my gosh. That's it. That's a Space Odyssey. We go from monkey to space station to spooky rectangle to another spooky rectangle in space, and then a man becomes a star child. And that's the entire story. I could get into further details and stuff and analysis. Like, there's a lot to talk about with this film, like a lot. Like the fact that the novelization and the film adaptation were written at the same time, which is like, what? And then also, look at this. There are a lot of scenes in the movie where just people are walking upside down and they're doing all this stuff because it's zero gravity, and it's mostly accomplished through crazy things like this, where they literally built a human hamster wheel to accomplish the cinematography, and that is just moi. I could never even imagine the level of dedication this takes. So nothing but respect for this film, even though it is very strange. And Stanley Kubrick, I hope that Kubrick, Kubrick. I hope that he has a therapist. That was A Space Odyssey 2001 explained for smooth brains like me. I hope you enjoyed. I hope the little animation, you enjoyed that. I spent way more time on the animation than I did the audio. Oh my gosh, I thought I was going to write out a script for this. I didn't. I just sat down and thought about the movie and said whatever came to my mind. Professor Mitchell, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Oh gosh. Uh, oh, hey kitty. Hi. Hey. What are you doing? What? No, no, you can't come up here. No, no, I'm going to audio. Yeah. Oh, okay, bye.